How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the All Things Liverpool show with me, Anish Dogra. And ordinarily, we would do these shows after what would be a typical weekend of Liverpool action. And in most of the time, it's probably us losing. But on this occasion, we had a good result and a good win. And it is something that we will, of course, be talking about a bit later. But as a lot of you probably have seen and have read today, the big story about Liverpool potentially being up for sale. FSG putting the club on the market, a really big and unexpected moment. I don't think any of us saw it coming, and it's obviously a really big thing for Liverpool and what it could potentially mean going forward. And because of that, I thought we'd get a special guest on. So we brought Ozzie, who you probably have seen on the show in the past from Football Talk podcast. He does obviously a lot of great stuff with Liverpool as well, and we thought it'd be great to have him on today. So Ozzie, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, Anish. How's it going?
Not too bad. It's been a really interesting 24 hours to say the least. Starting from yesterday, a really big win, and nice to go to bed happy for once compared to what it's been for most of the season. But of course, the big story, as I just mentioned, has been the future of Liverpool and what it could potentially mean. So just before we'll talk about it in detail, I'll quickly share my screen to the viewers so they can see what the Athletic reported. So they broke the story earlier today about FSG, John Henry, selling the football club. So you should be able to see that in a second or two. So here we have it right here. By David Ornstein, so one of the most respected journalists in the game, and whenever he breaks the story 99 times out of 100, he's usually correct. And as you can see there in the headline, plain and simple, Fenway Sports Group has put Liverpool up for sale. Sales presentation, which I guess means they kind of put in a proposal for parties to declare their interest in the club. At the moment, it looks unlikely that a deal will be done in the short term, but the main thing is that FSG are inviting offers, and we got the likes of Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, big financial powers in America, globally as well, to assist with the process. So that's basically the nutshell. There is, of course, a statement from the owners there, which is a bit confusing as well because it doesn't really say that they have put the club up for sale, but in a nutshell, it does say that they are interested in selling the club and they are willing to bring in shareholders. And even if a right offer comes, they are willing to put the club into a new pair of owners. So, Ozzie, based on that, what is your initial reaction?
Initial reaction was slightly surprised in terms of the timing, but whenever we hear these sort of announcements from Liverpool, I think there's something more concrete rather than it just being that Liverpool's up for sale. So I genuinely believe that there is someone that is set and ready to become the new owner of Liverpool. Now, the statement that you just mentioned about it not being clear, maybe it's not a complete deal in terms of having a new owner. It might be someone that comes in and becomes a stakeholder. So they have a high percentage of ownership at Liverpool, but FSG still hold the more dominant figure of that ownership. So at the minute, it's a bit unclear in terms of what that news is, but regardless, it's still a very positive news for Liverpool fans. I know our fan base has a divided section of FSG in, FSG out. I've always been in the middle, to be honest with you, not to be, around the fence or anything, but I like the way they do business, if I'm being honest with you. But I feel like since we became Premier League champions and then we won the Champions League, the model hasn't changed. It's still the same model. So with this news breaking today, I wouldn't say I was overly jubilant or excited, but I was pleased that it was announced because it shows that they've come to realize that it's the end of a cycle where they've done as much as they could to transform this team, and they've been here for 12 years. So I think they have reached their limit because the next step for Liverpool now is we are going through a transitional period. So we will need some very quality additions, and I'm talking 4 or 5 players of like the highest caliber you can think of coming into a club and transform the team. So you kind of have to give them some credit in terms of realizing that they've done as much as they could. So I'm looking at that in the positives where at least they've come to that realization. Some owners would still stick around because in terms of financially, they've done amazing for us. So 12 years ago, I believe they bought the club for around 500 million. Now we're worth 4.5 billion. So
It's not bad for a profit,
not
is
bad
it?
for 12 years work there. So, and we have to be honest, in terms of being business savvy, they've really helped Liverpool over the years in terms of being more commercially successful, and we've built a lot of partnerships over global companies. So yeah, so I was initial reaction was, oh, that's a bit of a surprise. Timing is a bit strange in terms of it just being the World Cup, but I feel like maybe there's something more to it. I feel like we might hear something. Not that I have any sources, but I do feel like we'll hear something in the very near future, and I think it will definitely be announced before the January window. Because do you remember a lot of fans were getting frustrated about Klopp not signing a midfielder here and there? Maybe he knew that there was new investment or new owners coming in, so that's why he might have had that angle to be saying, look, it's not what we need right now, so let's see how it goes. But I'm happy. There's already been links with. So I was reading earlier today with, I think it's a Norwegian, I think funder as well. They're worth like 800 billion. I know the Dubai royal family, they've been interested with Liverpool over the years. They're worth in that same region as well. And then you've got Indian businessman as well, Mukesh Ambani, who's also around that bull mark in terms of wealth. So people probably think, oh, who's going to buy Liverpool for 4.5 billion? There's a lot of interest. There is a lot of business people that would buy it. The Chelsea owner bought Chelsea for 4.2 billion. So
something like that. Yeah,
it's not out of the picture. So it's very positive news, I would say, as a Liverpool fan. But with this sort of thing, you kind of have to take it with a pinch of salt, because nothing is concrete. Nothing is to say that we do have an owner, but I have a gut feeling that it's pretty much set and done, and we will be hearing something in the near future.
Yeah, that's some excellent points, and I'll pick up on that little one about the timing of it. And whilst ordinarily it would be quite strange, but like you said, because of the January transfer window looming and the fact that after this weekend there'll be no football for 6 weeks, so that is time to do a lot of groundwork, a lot of work behind the scenes, do a lot of due diligence and everything like that. So yeah, I think the timing has been done on purpose, and I generally feel that they have done this purely because they have this period now where they can make changes, where they can oversee a new era almost, and potentially see Liverpool in new hands, which will be a very exciting time. I'll respond to this one question from the comments. So thank you, Calvi. So the question was, what challenges do you think for the new owners in Liverpool in the future? Well, it's simply just keeping up with Manchester City and Newcastle and Chelsea, really, because I think that's essentially why FSG have said they are likely to leave the club, because whilst FSG have done well, they don't have the money that Sheikh Mansour has, or the Newcastle Arab State does, or Todd Bowley has. They are billions of dollars and pounds in their bank accounts, and they can do whatever they want. And that's the thing with FSG, and that's essentially what it's been like, as Ozzie mentioned under Jurgen Klopp, where in the years after the Champions League win, after the title win, even last season getting to the final, which still brings a lot of money, there hasn't been that level of investment, and maybe that's because the club doesn't generate enough, or they take it and obviously invest it into their own other businesses, which of course they do have ownership of a baseball team with the Red Sox. So it's simply just purely about doing what's right for the club, making sure that everyone's involved, and obviously not repeating the mistakes that the FSG have done in their time at the club. Of course, we all remember the Super League and a few other things, like when the main stand was opening, about charging £77 for a ticket, and even trademarking the word Liverpool. So it's also very different when you buying a club like Liverpool comparing to Manchester City or to Newcastle, because whilst Newcastle have a bit of history, they aren't a big team or a big club. They used to be, but they are well, they've been relegation fodder for the majority of the time in recent Premier League years. And Man City were a nothing team before their owners came along. But with Liverpool, it's not a incorrect statement to say that this is one of the biggest clubs in the world. You know, you can only say Real Madrid and Manchester United are probably above them, and probably not that much higher, really. So it's just, it's all about them doing the best for the club and making sure that the club is in the right path. But it's also a difficult situation to kind of deal with when you're looking at the state of owners right now from a political point of view. You know, when Newcastle were purchased, everyone now talks about the standard of their owners, let's say, and the issues they have in their country with Saudi Arabia and the human rights issues. So for Liverpool to quite find a genuine good owner is going to be a bit of a challenge, and I think one where they'll have to do a lot of groundwork to make sure they find a good owner, and for the Premier League as well to accept the correct owner as well. So it's interesting. It's very interesting to see what FSG have done. Hopefully, of course, it will be resolved sooner rather than later, because there's no doubt that if we had even doubled the transfer budget that we've had under Jurgen Klopp, we would have done everything and more in that time. So overall, Ozzie, do you think if FSG were to leave, it would be a big loss for the club, or do you think it would be a wise move for them to move on?
I think for FSG, it would be a wise move, I think, because I think they've literally done everything they can in their powers to elevate the club. And I feel like for Liverpool fans, the next step is, like you mentioned, the new owners or the potential new owners. Where are they coming from? Because you don't want it to be where it's owners that do not share the same sort of ethos as us Liverpool fans. So we're very big in terms of our heritage and stuff. So we don't want to win everything at any cost. We do want to have a bit of like value in terms of what we do as a club and as a fan base. So it is a big step in terms of getting that right owner in as well. For me, it has to be someone that has genuine football interest rather than it being just a acquired business venture, because that's what normally happens nowadays. So it's not going to be easy, don't get me wrong, but the rumors are like, for example, the Norwegian investors, apparently a lot of our Liverpool fans are from Norway and Scandinavia. So that's a good point. That's like, that could be the genuine sort of Liverpool interest there. India as well. India has a big Liverpool following. And so, you know, there are, and even Dubai, the Dubai family, like I was reading earlier that the owner has always been a Liverpool fan. Like this is the guy who wanted to buy it before John Henry. So if there's a genuine love and passion for the club or football in general, then I feel like, firstly, that's the right type of owner to go for, because with John Henry and FSG, when they first bought the club, I don't think they had the right football knowledge or understanding of the sport. They kind of tried to use the American way of conducting sports business with us. And in Europe is very different in terms of how it's done in America. So I think financially FSG benefit from this sale. They could probably move on and maybe acquire an NBA team. I don't know, whatever their sort of plans are in the future. For Liverpool fans or for Liverpool as a club, we have to kind of be a bit careful in terms of asking for too much, because from a business point of view, I think FSG have done well. I know they've made some mistakes, but they're not our worst owners. Like we've had some terrible owners in the past. Just look at Tom Hicks and Gillette before as well.
Exactly, that's the point I was going to pick up upon, because for Liverpool owners, Liverpool fans rather, it's split into two different generations. I think you and I are part of a slightly older generation where we understood how bad things were under Hicks and Gillette. You know, I still remember the words Christian Perzo, our former CEO, said that we were days away from liquidation. Just imagine that, the club
very close,
a club like Liverpool going into liquidation. So it's difficult because you got that side who understand how bad things were and they can see how things are actually okay right now, and then you got the younger generation, the ones who've been supporting the team since 2016 or 2017, who already know what success is like.
Yeah, we've gone through the Hodgson era, so we know how bad
Exactly,
things
yeah.
get.
Like even when we lost the league last season and the Champions League, I still thought this is still amazing. You know, we went through Paul Konchesky
Oh
and
God.
Roy Hodgson and
Yeah,
Andre Bourne and people like that. So everything is also good.
bad
So
times.
yeah, I think that is good enough to about the FSG saga. It's been a great. It's been an interesting era to say the least. They've done more right than wrong. They've delivered more things than not. And if this is the end, then I think it will be a good farewell and one where I think we'll be grateful for what they've done for the club. And I think the biggest thing above all of that is that they will want to make sure that the club does go into the right hands, whoever that might be next. So, anyways, after that, we've of course now got the Champions League reaction, which has kind of taken a like a secondary seat after everything that happened today. But it's a big it's a big moment after finishing second. A really good group performance in the end after that debacle in Naples in match day 1. But from then we were brilliant. Won 5 matches, kept a lot of clean sheets, scored a lot of goals. And finishing second or first, I genuinely think it doesn't make a difference because as most of you have seen the draw today, you know, Bayern finished top, won every single one group stage match and got PSG. So it really is the luck of the draw. And obviously, from our point of view, we were a little bit unlucky. I would have obviously preferred one of the Portuguese teams, given how we always absolutely hammer them. No matter how good they or how much they try, they just don't have the quality. But lo and behold, we've got Real Madrid, and it's let's start with your views, Ozzie, because it's another chance for revenge, really.
Yeah, so I was rooting for that Porto tie to come in because that happens every year. It's like
But
a
yeah,
tradition almost because we've always played them every season. But my thoughts on the Real Madrid one, I said bring it on. My mentality is a bit different. I know a lot of fans are like, oh, it's Real Madrid. You know, they're a bit more cautious in that sort of viewpoint. But for me, it's a two-legged affair. I think it's time for revenge. The last time we had a two-legged affair, we kept 2 clean sheets as well. So
yeah,
it's a different outcome. You know, finals, it can come down to a bit of luck. Obviously, the first time we played them a few years ago, there was a concussion involved. And a few months ago, I actually think we were the better team on the night. And they just had their moments. And then that's why they were able to win the finals. So for me, I wouldn't say I'm overly confident or anything like that. But for me, I don't fear any team in Europe right now. I know we're not going through the best of spells, but do remember these ties take place after February. So I'm hoping, you know, fingers crossed, we've got a new owner in place as well. Might have some new signings coming in, but we'll be a bit more of a different team. We'll have a lot of our players either participating in the World Cup or they're having a rest as well. So the likes of Mo Salah, I know Luis Diaz is injured right now, but once he's back to full fitness, he'll have a rest as well. So we'll have a lot of refreshed players coming into the second half of the season. So for me, I'm excited. This is what the Champions League is about. It's about playing the big teams. Obviously, Man City got the easier fixture to say the
of course they
least
did.
with
Of
Red
course,
Bull,
yeah.
Leipzig, respectively.
Let's not like go into detail because we'll be questioning a lot of things.
It is what it is, but yeah, I don't mind that. For me, it's like, look, let's play against the best. And Real Madrid, we've got a bit of history with them as well. So yeah, I say bring it on.
Yeah, no, I agree with you more so than less because as you mentioned, the last couple of occasions we've come up against them last season, namely the only difference in that match was that Courtois had the best game of his career, and they scored with their only shot on target, or one of 3 shots on target they had in the match, and they scored from it. But there was no doubt we were the better side. And then the season before that, we were in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Again, I remember Courtois having an unbelievable game as well. We deserved to lose the first leg. It was 3-1, and they were the better side. But at Anfield, I think we had more than enough chances to have won 2-0. And again, that season, we had to play behind fans, without any fans. Didn't have Van Dijk or Matip or Gomez or any of our defenders fit then. And still gave it a pretty good performance. And then, of course, the Kiev final, which we all remember, where Ramos, broke Salah's arm. So from that point of view, looking at it at a tactical way, it's I've actually never really feared them in the last few matches. I always felt that we could go toe to toe, and it wasn't the Real Madrid teams that won the Champions League 3 years in a row when they had Bale at his prime, when they had Ronaldo in the team. Modric was younger, Cruz, Casemiro, Ramos was in the team, and all of those players. It's a different Real Madrid team now. Don't get me wrong; they still have a lot of incredible players. Vinicius really has come to the fore now. He's obviously took a bit of time to settle in, but he's fantastic. Benzema, undoubtedly the best player in the world after winning the Ballon d'Or. And even then, there's still quality there. Modric is still controlling the game at 36 or 37 years old, however old he is. Cruz the same as well. But you're right. It's if you want to win the competition and if you want to be the best team, you got to beat the best. And Real Madrid are the holders. They are one of the best in the world. And it's about us to showing the best that we can do. And as we've seen in Europe this season, we really we turn up for it. It's part and parcel of Liverpool. Even in the years under Rafa, under Julia, where we weren't good in the league, but on European nights when the Anfield crowd is really up there, there's not many better, easier places, tougher places rather than Anfield. And I was speaking about this in the show last week about finishing second. I actually genuinely believe that it suits us more because, well, the fact that we've got Real Madrid, for a fact it's going to be an incredible atmosphere. I'm almost certain that there'll be like a bus greeting, which will be brilliant, and you'll see all the pyro and the flares go out outside the ground, and we'll see more inside, and that will create a brilliant atmosphere. And then for us, it'll be a great opportunity for us to really put our foot on them and go into the game, try to get a couple of goals, 2, 3, maybe even 4 if we're lucky. And because of that, because we're playing at home first and the onus will be on us to put the pressure on and to get that win, it will be an opportunity to almost kind of end the tie there and then, which will be obviously fantastic for us. Don't get me wrong, I don't expect it to happen. I do think Real Madrid will do very, very well defensively, and with Carlo in the team and managing the team rather, they are always going to be a very tough challenge.
No, agreed. I think they have some good youngsters as well. So they've got Camavinga and they've got Tchouameni, who they signed over the summer. So they've got good prospects that have come in and they've hit the ground running as well. Valverde, for me, is another impressive player. I think last year he was rotated in different roles in the team, but I feel like this season he's probably playing more box to box, which is probably his preferred role. So, look, don't get me wrong, they're a very, very good team, but they're not, like you said, they're not a Galactico. They're not that kind of level of a Real Madrid team. So they're not someone that are fair in that regards. And I think we had the options of playing either Real Madrid, Bayern, Porto. So it could have been Bayern. Bayern, I think, would have been a bit more of a tricky encounter, to be fair, just because of the level of attackers they get. Obviously, playing against Mane would have been a different encounter itself. Yep. But I think, no, I said bring it on. I've seen a lot of fans, be like, oh, it's Real Madrid, always, depressed about it. But for me,
I think it's the history, isn't it? It's the fact that we've been so unlucky in so many matches in recent years, and it's not the fact that they are better than us because they've not been better in any of those matches, but they've always got the win. So I think it's more to do with that, really. But yes, you are right. It's bring it on. It's showing that we are as good as, if not better than them, and we can get past them. I'll just quickly read a comment here from Madison Smith. Thank you for commenting. So Valverde, obviously a really, really good player. The guy who got the assist in the final last season.
Yeah.
And you're right about that, about his versatility. I think in the final last season, he was played in the front three on the right. But like you said, this season, he's in his preferred position of playing in centre mid and being that box to box. So I think him particularly is probably one of the most important players to keep quiet because he provides that energy and that combativeness that you need to really play against Liverpool to show that power and presence in midfield to really stuff out our attack. And like you said, with how things might be in February when Diaz is back, when Jota is back, and the likes of Salah will be well rested. Firmino, who wasn't included in the World Cup squad today, it's a big surprise as well. I'm very, very surprised that Richarlison
was ahead of him, which was a bit of a joke.
9 games, 2 assists, and like one goal or 0 goals, whereas Firmino's got like 6 goals and 7 and like 3 assists. But they're lost our game, and it's good for us. It gives one of our bigger players a much needed rest. And then, of course, Nunes will be even better. And I think someone will talk about when we speak about Spurs in a moment or two. And Yeah, and hopefully as well bringing in a midfielder at least. Of course, I think we've seen a lot of links with the likes of Caicedo, who seems the strongest, I think, link so far. But Enzo Fernandez will continue to be linked. Declan Rice, who's emerged in the last couple of weeks, and as we mentioned the last time we had a show together, Mr. Bellingham. Which, if we do get the new owners, I'm more confident than ever we will able to meet their asking price or whatever it is.
Hey,
And,
apparently,
bring
according
him
to
in.
rumors, it's a shoe-in now. So expect to see Bellingham coming in very soon. But
Yeah,
we'll see how that goes.
I always felt confident. Like it just seemed like a match made in heaven.
Mm.
The fact that he loves Gerrard, he talks about him a lot, and just the way he kind of fits our profile. It always felt like he could come in. So yeah, hopefully he does come in either in a couple of months or next summer.
Next summer, yeah.
But in terms of your prediction, how do you think that it will go? Firstly, at Anfield, and obviously the return leg.
I think at Anfield, they'll be caught off surprise in terms of the atmosphere. I know that's something us Liverpool fans talk about a lot in terms of the European nights, but I think it'll have a big effect on the Real Madrid team. So I can see us winning the first tie, and I can see the second tie being a draw. So I'm saying we'll go. I think if I was to make a bold prediction, I think Liverpool will go through 3-1.
Oh, that's a good prediction. So do you reckon it'll be what, a 3-1, a 3-1
2-1 in the
overall?
first leg, and then so 1-0, and then actually no, that doesn't make sense. 2-1, and then we'll win 1-0 at the end. So
one of the Bernabeu, that would be fantastic. I think we're actually the only club who's ever won in the Bernabeu as well. I might be wrong, but I felt like we are one of the few, well, at least one of the few clubs who's ever won in the Bernabeu. I remember in 2009, Yossi Benayoun got that header.
yes.
So that's obviously a good omen. Hopefully another one will come true. But yeah, I echo you a lot. I feel us in Europe, we're a different class of the breed. It showed this season when we've had to win, we've had to put in good performances, we've done it. And it's exactly why in the league, you've seen the results that we had against Tottenham, against Man City. When we've had to play well, we can get ourselves up for it and produce a very good result. And it wouldn't surprise me if we do it against Madrid, and then whoever we get in the quarterfinals, and hopefully beyond that. And of course, that's a long way away. So for now, it's back to league action, and a great win on yesterday. First away win of the season in the Premier League. First time since May as well. We beat Southampton 2-1 at the back end of last season. And I felt it was a game we would win purely because, for many reasons. Firstly, we have a great record at Tottenham. I think Sky did a stat that we've only lost one of the last 20 matches against them, which is quite ridiculous. So it says, that says everything. We really do have a number on them. The second thing, they had a lot of injuries, and people don't like to use that excuse of injuries, and I think people threw that about us when we had our centre-back crisis a couple of seasons ago, but it clearly makes an impact. And even if you lose one or two players, and even if you have the likes of Kane on the pitch or Højbjerg or players who are there, if you miss one or two really important players, attackers especially, you lose so much. And in that game, other than until Kulusevski came on, I know they hit the woodwork a couple of times, but that was mainly from our own doing. But they never looked like opening us apart, never looked like creating a lot of chances. So that I felt, was going to play into our hands. And thirdly, again, like I just mentioned, we are a team right now who will lose to Leeds United and to Nottingham Forest, but we would beat Manchester City and we will beat Napoli, and as we saw yesterday, we will beat Tottenham. So, Ozzie, what do you think? How do you think yesterday went? And your thoughts on it?
I think we started the game really well. That's one thing that was a positive for me. I think the tale of our season is we've always had a poor start, especially in the Premier League more than anything else, where we've conceded early. So even the goal that we conceded against Leeds United, that was an awful one to concede from a Joe Gomez mistake. So I think more so this year, injuries definitely plays a part in terms of why we haven't been consistent. But I think defensively, we've been making a lot of individual errors. So that's something that needs to be rectified going forward. And I feel like once we can cut that out of our game, we can sort of go on a good run, because we're more than capable of doing it. We've shown it over the years that we can go on a 14, 15 game run without losing. So So the signs are there in terms of us improving, but like you said, we're a bit of one team. 1 week we're great, 1 week we're awful. So there's no consistency right now. I had a good feeling going into this game. I actually predicted a 2-1, so I was quite happy with my prediction. So Mystic Oz there in regards to that. But yeah, I think because they had a good result midweek as well in the Champions League, so I thought they might be in better spirit. But as I reviewed their squad, I know they had Richarlison wasn't in the squad. Kulusevski made the bench, but he didn't start. So they have, especially Kulusevski, who's been a fantastic signing for them. So once I knew he wasn't in the team, I was like, have a bit more confidence.
Yeah.
I actually thought Conte would have played a more adventurous formation than he actually did. I thought he would have gone for a 3-4-3 formation, but he ended up going for look like a 5-3-2. So
yeah, it was Perisic like alongside Kane to try and give them some
yeah,
depth, but that was just never going to work. Perisic
no,
isn't
it
in
was
that
never
position
going to
ever.
work because every team that's played against us, especially in the Premier League, they've always gone for our fullbacks or they've tried to go for Trent Alexander-Arnold. So that would have been the kind of obvious tactic to go at our fullbacks because they play a bit more advanced up the pitch. So that's not the tactics that Conte deployed at all. So they played very cautiously. So I think that gave us that room to push them further and press forward and really give it to them in the first half, which I think we did. So the goals itself, especially the first goal, beautiful touch by Salah, and then he smashed it in literally in one move, which was fantastic. And then the second one was like a Predator's move where he was pretty much waiting for that mistake to happen, and then the dink was beautifully executed as well. So no, happy with the win. It could have actually been a draw because they hit the woodwork, like you mentioned a couple of times as well. I don't think we defended better in the second half. I think we were quite shaky at some points as well.
Yeah.
So overall, pleased with the win. At this stage, we've only got Southampton to play this week, and then we're pretty much off due to the World Cup. So as long as we can end with a win before the second half, I think that'll be a positive outlook for Liverpool. I'm not really looking at the league table because rival fans are quick to point out, oh, you're 8th, you're 9th, and all this sort of stuff. But for me, it's pretty much one game at a time. Due to the fact that we've never really had a fully fit squad coming into the first game of the season, we've kind of tried to build a team that's able to compete. So Klopp's been able to change formations as well, which I feel like has definitely helped. So switching over to a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2 has helped in terms of us being a bit more unpredictable. Because the way we were playing, we were 4-3-3, we were being walked over by pretty much every team that we played against. So it's positive in terms of Klopp realizing that, look, it's not working. We need to change things around. And we're going through that sort of like reinventing ourselves as well at the same time. So positive note in terms of qualifying for the Champions League, because I think after that Napoli defeat, we thought it might not be our year. We might be struggling to even qualify.
Yeah, it looked really bleak after that occasion. And Klopp's words after that game, I still remember. I never heard him. Well, firstly, watching him, he looked really down in the dumps. And normally he's the most positive guy in the world. Even when we lost the Champions League finals on multiple occasions, he's still so upbeat. But on that occasion, it kind of felt like, this team is completely done, and we just need to get through these few months until January and then in the summer. But credit to him, he's definitely changed things around, and we look. I don't think we look like the team that we were at the back end of last season, but we look better than we have done in recent weeks, at least.
Yeah, I think once we get some bodies back into the squad, I think we'll be a bit more revitalized. But right now, we're doing enough to get the wins. We are playing good football, not the best football, I would say, in my opinion. But I think, the World Cup has been a disruption. Let's not be around the bush. We wouldn't have expected to have a World Cup in this winter period. So it kind of makes the season a bit odd in terms of restructuring how we're going to play our next games. But fingers crossed we don't have any further injuries in the World Cup, because that is the main thing that I'm looking out for. I'll be watching all the games with excitement, but I'm always looking out to make sure no Liverpool players are injured. So when it comes to all of these sort of selections, Firmino not being selected, don't get me wrong, I'm gutted for him personally, because I do feel like he deserves to be in that squad. From a greedy perspective or selfish perspective, I'd rather he stay at home and rest. So, and that goes the same with Trent Alexander-Arnold and Joe Gomez for England as well. I don't want them to get selected. I'd rather they stay at Liverpool, train up and get ready for the second half of the season. So that's my Liverpool hat there. But got to do what we've got to do here.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just all about us, and England are going to win anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But no, it was a really good performance in parts, and I think you're right with that summary of yesterday. It's kind of how we are at the moment. Like we saw in the first 10 minutes, it was brilliant. We penned them back. We were on the ball. We were creating. We were making a lot of chances and defending resolutely. And we didn't have to defend resolutely because we penned them back so well. And then we let them back into the game. We looked vulnerable. Then we had control of the game and we looked good again. So it's a lot of seesawing right now. In moments we'll look brilliant. In moments we'll take control, score goals, and look like our old selves again. And then on the flip side, we could also look like how we did in the second half, where we were hanging on. They easily could have got an equaliser, and if they had obviously more attackers on the pitch, they probably might have even won the match from the get-go.
Yeah.
So good in moments, still lots to work on, but I think the biggest thing of all of that is having the personnel back, and some of them back with confidence. Salah, for example, hadn't started the season well, wasn't getting goals, he was creating chances, but we know Salah to get goals, and that's what he's been doing, and that's what he's in the team for. But he wasn't doing that. However, in the last eight or nine games now, he's got as many goals in as many matches. Of course, a hat-trick against Rangers, and then 2 yesterday, and a winner against City. So he looks back to his old self. But I think the two of the biggest impacts who have made us tick more often than not is Konate and Nunes. And particularly with Konate, he's played barely any football this season. He had that injury in pre-season, which is a big step back. Came back against, I think, Arsenal. He came on as a second-half sub. Then he started the next game and then was injured after that. But like we've seen on Sunday, we saw against Napoli in midweek, he's absolutely elite, and he's a younger version of Van Dijk. I don't think there's any disrespect in saying that, or any kind of arrogance, really, because you can see what he has and what he brings to the team. Passing, striding with the ball forward, and defending, all of those things. And even when he let Kane go for the goal, it wasn't really his fault. It was better play from Kane than more of a poor defensive mistake. He learned very quickly, and there was another chance that Kane had again, but we couldn't get the shot away because of how well Konate reacted. And I think that's probably been the biggest upturn in our form, really. And it's also showing why Gomez, and I'm a big fan of Joe Gomez, I still think he can offer something to Liverpool in the long term. He's only 25 or 26 and signed a new contract in the summer, but he's showing why Gomez is out of the team and what Gomez really needs to do to get back in the team.
No, 100%. I think with Konate, I've been saying it since last season. I think Van Dijk and Konate is our best pairing. Konate, just look at his physicality, like doesn't get pushed over.
That's isn't he?
Yeah, he's got so much pace to burn as well. So I feel like one of the weaknesses in our play this year is the centre backs not covering each other. So that's why I feel like there's been times where Van Dijk has been exposed, and normally you'd expect the centre back partner to cover him. Gomez for me hasn't done that enough. Matip for me hasn't either. But there are a few instances in the last couple of games with Konate where he has come in and blocked a few shots. So I think Konate is still a young player. I think he's 21, 22. So in terms of his maturity, that will happen with more experience. The reading of the game will improve as well. But I think with him and Van Dijk, they complement each other very well as well. And they're a great unit together. So yeah, I'm very pleased in terms of how Konate has performed. In regards to Nunes, I have to be honest, I've been impressed with him in the last few games, I would say. My sort of analysis of him so far in the Liverpool shirt is he's very erratic. He's very rash in terms of his decision making. But I look at it in terms of, I feel like he's trying too much, too hard to please the fans right now. We've got Erling Haaland, who's basically a freak of nature in terms of how he's scoring goals right now. And it's unfortunate that because they both signed as big signings this window, he is that comparison where if you're not hitting numbers close to Haaland, you're not a success or you're not doing well. But if you look at Nunes' numbers, considering he's a new player who's come into a new league, doesn't really speak the language, getting used to the players around him, he's actually not done that bad. So the last couple of games I've noticed, because he's provided a couple of assists for Salah in particular, he's showing a bit more maturity and a bit more understanding in terms of his awareness. So when he gets the ball, normally, like for example, against Napoli, there was that chance where he was on the left wing. And in that instance, normally he would either try and cut in and shoot or go out wide and shoot without really thinking about what he's doing. But he took his time, cut wide, went around the defender and tried to square it to Salah. We would have got an open goal, but then the defender, I think it was Ostergaard, who blocked it off or something. So
I just remember that now. It's a brilliant clearance.
Brilliant clearance from the Napoli defenders. So even the one against Tottenham, the first goal where he had the ball, he could have opted to shoot straight away, but he took his time, analyzed his surrounding, and then gave the pass to Salah, which was the right choice at that time. So don't forget, he's still a young striker, 22, 23 years old, still learning his trade. I feel like there's a bit more to his game that he needs to work on. So finishing for me, I feel like he needs to show a bit more range in his finishing. So right now, I feel like he's one of those players where he gets the ball and he just wants to hit as hard as he can. I feel like he needs to be a bit more smart in terms of how to execute those finishes. So maybe showing a bit more finesse in terms of trying to curl it rather than just smashing it in every moment he gets. So that will come. And he's playing alongside players like Salah, who's a world-class finisher. So I do feel like he's learning off him as well a little bit in terms of having that composure on the ball. So no, it's exciting times, don't get me wrong. I think fans are a bit more sort of short-minded in terms of they want instant success. And because of Haaland as well, we're looking at it the wrong way, in my opinion. But with Liverpool fans, we always show support with players who are working hard or trying their best. And he's clearly doing that. So hopefully he continues. Hopefully he stays injury-free as well.
Yeah.
And I think he'll score a lot of goals for us. Maybe not the same level as Haaland, but we're close enough.
I'm gonna make a bold prediction right now, and maybe not this season, maybe not next season, but there will be a day where he gets Haaland numbers, because I generally believe he has all the talent there at his disposal to be as good as him. He's got the pace like Haaland does. He's got the power. He's got the height, physicality, all of that. I generally believe he has that. Don't get me wrong, like he just said, he's very raw right now, very erratic. Does some dumb things which are very funny because sometimes he'll do some amazing things. It kind of reminds me of Suarez when he first came to the club back in 2011. You know, some unbelievable moments of genius and things that you can't explain. But then other times he might miss an open goal, like he did against Ajax, I think, in the 3-0 win. So I've no doubt he's going to be a brilliant player for us. And like Liverpool have been in the transfer market, bar like Naby Keita, really, they've got instant hits with every single player they've bought. I'd even include Oxlade-Chamberlain until he got that, ACL injury, which ruined his career, really. So they don't make mistakes in the transfer market. They clearly see what he's about, and there's a reason why Van Dijk said he's one of the toughest strikers he's come against, because he clearly has that in his locker. So it's all about time. It's all about trusting the process, as everyone seems to say nowadays. And like you said, because he's learning alongside Salah, one of the most clinical finishers in the world, really. And with other players in the team, like Firmino, a really intelligent attacker, with Diaz to help him alongside him when Diaz returns from injury, it's only going to bode well for us. And it will be a wonderful time when he's scoring goals left, right, and centre. He's taking chances without even having to think about it. And I was really impressed again with him yesterday. Like you said, got the assist, showed brilliant awareness. Should have got another assist as well, but Salah couldn't take his hat-trick chance. I think that was a moment in the second half. So a lot of good moments, a lot of positive play from him again. And like you said, he's here for the long term. He's still learning the game. And on a little side note as well, the fact that he'll be going with Uruguay to the World Cup, and with Suarez there, that's only going to help him as well. Again, like Suarez was raw when he came in, but really developed and really became the best striker in the world for that 3-4 year period. He would have won the Ballon d'Or if Messi and Ronaldo weren't around. So for Núñez to be around Suarez, to have that mentor alongside him, and even Cavani, I'm not sure if Cavani's going to the World Cup, but Cavani is obviously, has been a talented striker in his career. So to have that in his ranks will only help him a lot. So really positive signs, and two players, Kim and Konate, who I look forward to seeing progress over the next months and seasons. And obviously on Konate, just a little side note again, the fact that he might not be going to the World Cup is again a big plus for us. France are very lucky to be gifted with a plethora of talent all over the pitch. So him not going right now is only going to help us and help him get fitter and be more rested, and again be great for us in the second half of the season. So a great win yesterday, first away win of the season, and I think that another big thing of the fact was we finally made the most of our rivals dropping points. That's something we usually never do on a weekend where our rivals drop points. But Chelsea losing against Arsenal, United going down to Villa, really made a big impact. And now I think we're only 6-7 points off Chelsea. And like you said, it doesn't really matter about the points tally right now or even the league position, because there is so much football to go in the second half of the season. And that's when things will make more of a difference. And obviously we'll have more players back and hopefully a signing or two. But we've got to turn to our attention now to something that's a little bit more relaxing tomorrow night against Derby County in the League Cup. Of course, we are the holders and we'll be looking to retain it. Even though I'll be honest, I couldn't care less. I really don't care anymore. I wanted to win the cups last season just so we can so we can say that, all right, it's been a long time we've not won it. Let's get that over and done with. Then we can not win it now for another 3-4 years and we'll win it again in 5 years' time or whatever. But it's a good chance tomorrow for a lot of our French players to be given some minutes, give some legs into their bodies, and for some of the French players to really shine. A couple of players I'm looking forward to. Kate Gordon, he's not really played much in pre-season. I think he had an injury, but at the back end, well, in January last season when Salah and Mane were in AFCON, I remember he got his first goal against, I think it was Shrewsbury Town in the FA Cup. Played against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup second leg, so really showing that he's got some talent there. So if he is fit, I think he is fit. Seeing him tomorrow will be good. And the two of the other bigger players I'm even looking forward to more is Calvin Ramsey, signed in the summer. We didn't get to see him at all because of the injury, sadly. But he got 10 minutes against Napoli, last week. And looked okay. He actually showed a couple of bits of promise, even in that brief period. And Stefan Bajcetic, the CDM. Again, those who are watching right now probably have no idea who they are, but 3 very talented players, players who have a lot of potential, and it'll be great for them to be given a run out against low opposition. You know, Derby County got relegated from the Championship last season, playing League One now, and aren't a threatening side really. So a good game tomorrow for our French players to really show. And who do you think could shine tomorrow night?
I'm excited to see Bajcetic as well. He's someone that's impressed me, I think, since pre-season. Whenever he's played for Liverpool, has that sort of touch of flair about him, despite being a CDM, which is quite nice to see. So I think he's still pretty early in his development. I don't think he's quite ready for the first team as such, or to play sort of a long string of games, in my opinion. But having said that, whenever he's played or whenever he's shown a glimpse of his talent, he's got a good touch about him, very sort of quick in terms of his passing, but tactical awareness as well in terms of how to distribute around the pitch. So that's definitely one player that I'm looking forward to. You mentioned Calvin Ramsey, so he's not someone I've seen much of. Obviously, when you sign a player, you check for highlights and stuff, but I haven't really seen him play full 90 minutes here and there, so I'll be excited to see him play. And Carvalho as well. I know he's played in and out of the team, but I feel like he will get a start in this one. It's funny you say French players, but I feel like all of our French players have played this season in some shape or form because
could be
of our injury crisis of players that we wouldn't have expected to have played. They've actually played this year. So some of them won't be a huge surprise because Bajcetic has been in our Champions League squad every time. So and he made an appearance against Napoli over the week last week as well. So yeah, those two are definitely looking forward to. I think Carvalho, interested to see what kind of position he plays because he's predominantly a number 10, but can play on the left as well. So
he's played on the left most of the season as well, hasn't he? That's where he's been chosen by Klopp.
Yeah, exactly. So excited to see how he does. I feel like he's shown some great account of himself in games, but I still feel like he's still getting used to playing at a higher level. So he's still getting used to how we play as a team. but that will happen in due time. So I would say those 3 players are the ones I'm looking out for. And plus, it'll be good to see players like Tsimikas get more of a run in. I feel like bit of a disappointment for him where he has a good game and then Robertson comes in and takes over. It's no reflection of his performance. It's just that Robertson is a superior fullback. But whenever Tsimikas has played for us, I've always been really sort of confident in terms of how he's going to do. I'm sure you can relate where we've had players in the past that have been backup players and they look shocking whenever they're on the pitch. So it's good to actually see a player that can come in and you don't actually feel like you've missed Robertson because he's done pretty well himself. So against Napoli, he provided the 2 assists with the corner kick. So so for me, he's always been a good player to have in the squad. Looks like a funny character as well. So I'm sure everyone gets along with him. Yeah, but yeah, I'm excited to see the young players play. I do agree in terms of the importance of this game. I feel like it's better for the young players to get game time or the squad players to get more game time rather than us thinking too far ahead that, oh, we need to retain this title, because last season I think it did mean something to us because the League Cup and the FA Cup was nothing that were not trophies that Klopp has ever won. So he pretty much completed the whole thing by winning those 2 trophies. So I thought that was a good sort of angle for us. But I feel like our second team last year was a lot stronger, in my opinion. So we had the likes of Origi, Minamino in there as well. And Minamino played a pivotal part in that League Cup campaign. So and the FA Cup as well, to say the least. So I don't think we have those kind of players or that kind of quality of players to mount for that challenge again. But as long as we do well and as long as the players can build confidence from these games, I think that's the main thing right now. So bit of a tricky one because after this, we've got a big gap with the World Cup and stuff. But, you know, a win's a win. I think it can only boost the fringe players' morale as well going into Southampton. And for the young players, they get more game exposure. And, you know, for them, it's like we've had a taste of first team football now. Maybe if we keep on training, we might get opportunities further down the line. And that's been shown as well, that Klopp does give youngsters chances in the season. So yeah, excited to see how the youngsters do. But yes, not hugely fast in terms of the result. But you know, because we've had a lot of losses this year, I'm hoping for the win. So
absolutely. And yeah, like you said about the French players, you know, going back in history, I remember Trent Alexander-Arnold making one of his first appearances against Leeds back in 2016. He put on an assist typically on that day, and yeah, it's a chance for the French players to show that, okay, if a guy like Trent was in this situation 5-6 years ago, I can be in the same shoes as he's in right now in a couple of years' time. So very much so, a chance for the younger guys to show that they can make it at this highest level and can be a good player for Klopp now and in years to come. And one of those players I think we should talk about just briefly is Curtis Jones. I think one who we've seen trending a lot on Twitter in particular over the tenure of his Liverpool career. I think it's fair to say when he first came into the team, there was a lot of excitement. He showed a lot of good quality, whether it was from shooting from range, driving runs, things like that. But he's had a couple of setbacks with injuries, didn't play as much as he'd like to last season. And of course, this season hasn't been involved in any football until the last month or so. And from my point of view, I think he's one where I want to see him do well. You know, he's come from our academy. He's a Liverpool player, Liverpool man, a Scouser. And like Trent and like all of our players in the past, if you come from the club, you want them to succeed and to really make it and be the player that, well, that he's that's why he's in the team, because he's got some talent in there. But it's been a bit hot and cold. This season, he's not done much to really suggest that he can make it. And again, I'll be lenient because, like I just said, he's been injured a lot and is kind of getting up to speed. But where do you stand on him? Do you think he could actually make it as a Liverpool player one day and really fulfill his potential at the club?
It's a tricky one. I feel like this season would have been regarded more as a make or break season for Curtis Jones. But because of the injuries that he suffered early on, where I don't think he didn't get much of a pre-season. He only just returned, I think, a couple of weeks ago. So he's made a couple of appearances here and there. So it's a tricky one, but I do feel like it's an important season for him. because he's down a pecking order in the midfield area. He's got Harvey Elliott above him right now, who's pretty much getting more game time than him. So
Yeah,
it's make or break. Obviously, it would be nice to see a Scouser playing for the team and stuff, but if he's not up for it, unfortunately, it's not. You can't be sentimental with these sort of things. So you've got kind of had to let him go or further his career somewhere else. I'm a big fan of his. I do feel like he does have a career at Liverpool. I feel like the criticism that he receives is unjustified in my opinion. I have to think when he first broke into the first team, he was more regarded as an attacking midfielder or a player that played for the front three. So he normally played predominantly on the left or as the number 10. That's why he got such rave reviews playing for our reserves or under 23s, as you want to call it, because he was scoring a lot of goals. He was creating a lot of goals. But when he came into a Liverpool team, he kind of had to adapt his style of playing. So he was playing more as a controlling number 8 rather than a box-to-box number 8, because that was the time when I think Genie wasn't around as well. So he wasn't his direct replacement as such, but it was kind of like taking on his sort of space in the squad and having to adapt his play. So for such a young player, he's not someone that has he doesn't have a burst of speed in like the first 10 yards, but I feel like once he dribbles with the ball, that's when you see his strengths. So I actually thought with us changing formation into a 4-2-3-1, he might have been utilized as a number 10 a bit more. Maybe going down the season, that might happen a bit more. So remains to be seen. But right now, I think he's more suited to play on the left-hand side than Carvalho, for example. I don't think Carvalho is quite there yet physically, in my opinion. And I feel like Curtis John, he knows pretty much how the team plays, and he's quite comfortable playing the left where he can cut in. You'll remember the last-minute goal he scored against Everton not so long ago.
Yeah.
And that was from that similar position
on that
as well.
left side,
So he's definitely a good squad player to have, in my opinion. It also depends on our recruitment next year in terms of, obviously, if we have new owners, more money, we might have some big players coming through. But we've got James Milner, who will be out of contract. Not sure if he'll be retiring, but he might actually possibly be part of the coaching team at Liverpool because he's very highly regarded at the club. So he will no longer be at the club. Then you've got Oxlade-Chamberlain, whose contract is expiring. I don't expect that to be renewed. And Naby Keita, I don't expect his contract to be renewed either.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, let's hope not, because that would be a disaster. But so that's 3 midfielders gone. So in my opinion, I don't see us signing, despite us having, even if we have rich owners, we're not going to sign 3-4 midfielders in one window. So I do feel like next season he'll have that chance to kind of break into the team a bit more. But I feel like this season, if he shows he's up there, it puts him in a good position. But if he shows below par, then I think his Liverpool future will be in question coming to the end of this season.
Very much so. Hopefully we'll see that tomorrow night. I think tomorrow will be like a great chance, or Wednesday rather. It'll be a great chance to kind of like mix things up a bit. Carvalho, like we said earlier, has played for Liverpool, but he's only ever played on that left channel. But at Fulham, he was the number 10. And hopefully tomorrow or Wednesday he'll be given that chance to play in that position, and then that will leave Jones to play on that left channel, where, like you said, he scored that goal against Everton. And last week, I think it was we played against Napoli. He was a part of that front 3 on that left channel, and he looked good in that position. He showed some nice pieces of play, a little bit of skill here and there, and was definitely better than playing in a midfield 3. So yeah, hopefully we see that tomorrow on Wednesday.
Yeah,
and like we just mentioned, he'll still have a Liverpool career in the coming months and in the coming seasons. Just before we wrap things up, there'll be another comment here from Madison. So thank you again. So a lot in the air with a new owner, but if Liverpool miss out on the top 4, do you think the club needs a massive overhaul in the summer for it to happen? Personally, I don't think that it needs to be a massive overhaul, because the great thing about Liverpool and how they've operated in recent years is they've gone for players with big potential, like we've seen in the last couple of transfer windows. This one just gone, bringing in Nunes and Carvalho and Ramsey, all players in their 20s, early 20s. Some before that, bringing in Kanate, and even in January, bringing in some fringe players here and there and recruiting in the academy. So I don't feel there needs to be a massive overhaul. And the fact that we've still got a lot of players in their prime, with Salah, with Diaz, with Jota, Fabinho, I still think has a lot to offer in the team. And in defense, I think we're pretty much set for at least a few more years before Van Dijk and Matip get into their mid-30s, and then you have to look at replacing them. So with or without top four, I don't think it's a massive rebuilding job for Liverpool to do in the summer. However, with that said, we all know what top four is in football. If you're not in the top four, you are irrelevant. It's a bit sad like that, but it's just the way it is because of the money involved, because of the contracts you can offer, and the fact that you are playing at the highest level in football. It definitely needs to happen this season, whether we finish inside the top four or win a European Cup. It's imperative for this club to be playing Champions League football next season, one way or another. Ozzie, I'm pretty sure you probably echo those words as well.
Yeah, 100%. I personally don't think it has an impact if we have new owners. So if we have new owners that come in the next few months, I think the rebuild job would take place from next summer. So I'd probably look at it in a bigger picture that it would be a bonus that we get Champions League football because of how poor we have been this year. Obviously, if we get Champions League football, then fantastic, happy days. We can try and get whoever we want. But I don't feel like, let's say we don't get top four, God forbid. But if we don't get top four, it's not end of the world, in my opinion. We still have the pulling power to attract big players. Hopefully, Jurgen Klopp is still at the club. And I say that we're hitting the salt because Klopp has said in the past that he wouldn't want to work for an ownership that is state-owned or state-funded. So
yeah,
that's something we need to, just have a thought in the back of our head that hopefully Klopp doesn't walk away depending on who the new owners are. So no, obviously top four is very important. It's always our target as a club. But I wouldn't say it's end of the world if we don't get it, because I think the rebuild that will take place should help mount a better challenge next season. So remains to be seen. Obviously, a lot of ifs, buts, and maybes right now, but we'll have a clearer picture, I would say, in the next few months.
I might be crazy, but I still think we can win the title. I don't know why. It's when Klopp in his first ever press conference saying from doubters to believers, and I've doubted Liverpool in so many times in the past. I didn't think they could beat Barcelona. I didn't think they could even challenge for a quadruple last season, and so many occasions. But now that's like instilled in me, and I just can't seem to write Liverpool off in any kind of scenario. And even though we're 15 points behind, there's still more than half the season to go, and we did that with 10 points against Man City last season. So I still think we could actually win the league, or at least challenge for the title. But that's getting ahead of myself. But anyways, that is all we've got for today. Ozzie, thank you very much for jumping on. It's been a really interesting and exciting day, to say the least. We'll obviously see what happens in the coming days, weeks, months. There'll be a lot of chatter, a lot of work going on behind the scenes. And like you said earlier in the show, I think it's just a matter of time if something happens one way or another. But everyone, thank you for tuning in. We will potentially be back again at the end of the week to talk about how we did against Derby County. And I'm not sure, but I think there will obviously be the draw for the fourth round. Usually they normally take place after the end of Carabao Cup ties, and then of course talking about the Southampton match, which again, because of Liverpool how they are right now, wouldn't surprise me if we lost. And speaking of Southampton, they of course got rid of Ralph Hasenhüttl today, so they'll be getting a new manager very soon. But anyways, Ozzie, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Take care.